I'm 42 years old. I was born in Manaus, Amazonas, Brazil. The big, whatever the jungle is, there's a city right there. We do not ride on trees. We do have cars and motorcycles and things like that. But, everybody say, oh, you're from the Amazon, you're too white. I'm like, well, it happens, There's always a bad seed on that. I do have an older brother, Xande Ribeiro. He was born same state as me. He's a little bit older. And my story with the grappling started, with Judo. So in Brazil, very common. Your mom put your kids in Judo, and that's how it started. The other day I was looking at my gi. My gi is like that big. I was like, was I that big? Sounds like yesterday. And at 10 years old, I officially started my training with Jiu-Jitsu. Back in the day, it was just Jiu-Jitsu, right? It was just, let's do Jiu-Jitsu. Put the gi on. And the first thing that I experienced when I first started, I think, if you guys did the assault bikes, is that feeling of claustrophobia. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit, this is so uncomfortable. And I remember the first time, we're like about 15 kids. The mats were like probably that big. That already was very intimidating for me. And because I have never really been in a fight or anything, and then they put this guy mounted on me, and next thing I know, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling all those emotions that really caught my eye. And instead of, putting me out of it and pushing me away, it actually made me feel very intrigued. I was like, whoa, this is interesting. I never felt that, right? Who here ever grappled before? All right, so guys know, oh, that's cool. So guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Being restrained, being emotionally like in a fuck up state. Even for me, it's a challenge to make John put his back on the floor, because for him it's the same thing. Like, fuck, I don't want to be on my back. So that was the first thing that really got me intrigued and curious about understanding what was that, right? I had no clue what was that. And then there was this saying in our academy that say minimal effort, maximum efficiency. That's the romantic part of it, right? Let's do this thing, with the most gentle way possible, right? But sometimes there is no gentle way, right? You need to make it happen. I think that's where athleticism and jiu-jitsu kind of play, kind of a brotherhood right there. I usually define my career and whatever jiu-jitsu happens in fighters versus athletes. I think in the beginning, guys go like, oh, let's go and do conditional. Okay, let's go and run a mile. Let's go and do pull-ups. Let's go and do dips. These was literally our conditioning for jiu-jitsu at that time. And we train a lot. I was 10 years old. I would literally train 4 hours a day. I went to military high school, so I did have training on that. Not like actual military, but the school that I attended was the number one in the state. My whole idea was become a lawyer, which I still did, 3 years of law school. And then that's all I did, the 4:30 to 6, 6:30 to 8, a lot of training. And the thing about jiu-jitsu back in the day is not like what it is today. We trained to save our lives. That's pretty much how it was, okay? There was a lot of gangs and people that, wanted to prove things, and it was very difficult for us, especially for me, mid-high class kid walking around and people looking at you. But also was a very interesting time of our lives because there was this other martial art, which nowadays is called no-gi. It was called luta livre, okay? So luta livre was the no-gi version of jiu-jitsu. Nowadays it's all the same thing, right? You train jiu-jitsu, or you do no-gi, you do gi, no-gi jiu-jitsu. Like, to call something no-gi jiu-jitsu was a sin. Like, if you come to your school and you say you train without your gi on in this other school, you're going to be beat up or you're going to be out of the clique. So there was a time when the Gracie family was trying to prove, that they were better than anyone else. And Luta Livre were our biggest rivals. And guess what? I was a 11, 12-year-old boy that had to watch over my shoulder because if I had a Jiu-Jitsu shirt and the guy had a Luta Livre shirt, I'd be like, you look good. You're bald, I'm bald too. Do you think you're better than that? And that was it. Countless days on a Monday, you will see we're talking about, like I said, my daughter is 13-year-old. We're talking about my friends who are like 14, 13 with like bruised eyes, scratches because they're just walking the street and that was a gang fight. Those are the environments that we grow up to really take Jiu-Jitsu somewhere. And also I'm really proud to be a big advocate of female martial arts as well, because believe me, I was bad too. A girl, when she would walk into Jiu-Jitsu school, they want to either sleep with the teacher or they're harassed the whole day. And that's just how it was. I had strong family bonds with my mom, my sister, and for me, that was outrageous. How can these girls can't feel protected around us? So basically, that was the environment that was today. Hey, do you want a shirt from my school? Nowadays, hey, do you want a Jiu-Jitsu shirt? Here we go. I'd be like, are you sure? Do you want this Jiu-Jitsu shirt? So it was very hard times. That's why that was the type of thing that we didn't know where to go. We're just gonna do this. Let's see where it goes. And we have zero clue. Like, go tell your girlfriend's dad that you do Jiu-Jitsu. He'll be like kicking you out of the house. Now you go there, oh, you're a fighter, there's some water or some wine, So things have changed for the better in that sense. And, but I'll get there, okay? So went to law school for 3 years, and I decided that wasn't the type of law that I wanted to do because I felt that being a lawyer, you have to bend a lot of things, Have you guys watched that show Suits on Netflix? Yeah, I love that show. So, and that's when I first started to come to the USA in Europe to do seminars with my brother. So my brother, his name is Saulo. He's a 5-time world champion. Not until too long ago, he was the guy that won in the most different weight divisions. That dude won from lightweight all the way to super heavyweight. If you guys know, Vitor Hugo was a super heavyweight. Like, Felipe is a super heavyweight. And my brother is this short, right? But heart of a lion. He was undefeated for a long time. He's a bachelor in law, so he finished law school. I took shit from my mom for a long time. But at least your brother finished college. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Now I signed diplomas for big Jiu-Jitsu business schools, okay? So went there and I was like, maybe that's something that it's cool, Still, moved to Toledo, Ohio. That was my first experience moving to America. Right away, I really appreciate it because, we work, things are very methodical in a way. But also, people are like, who are you? You're 21 years old, what can you teach me? So there's still all those barriers, right? People would call and say, is there anyone that owns a Jiu-Jitsu school here? Or any sort of gym business? All right, cool. They'll be like, how much Jiu-Jitsu? Oh, it's $100. Thank you, boom. Oh, we lost the guy. Now there's a whole Google. Our times are like yellow pages, word of mouth, and what is Jiu-Jitsu? It's a bunch of dudes, grappling around. I'm like, you guys do wrestling, so what's the difference? That was just funny how that all came about. And then, I moved first. Again, zero skill in how to run a school. Zero skills in many different things. I did speak English. That was a good thing. So thanks, Mom. I could speak English. I was very fluent in English. Hope you guys can still understand what I say by the end of this. And then those hardships of can this work, right? I wonder if the fitness industry, when you look around, you see everyone that has a six-pack and say, this is how you look like me. I was like, this is bullshit. This is not how it works, okay? And then, my brother moved in with me. That's when we start to get this idea, just start, well, maybe we should just create a method to like, give people belts. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Here's the first idea. That's when we start to build methodology and the idea of creating a system and a protocol that people would follow. But the problem with this, which I believe that's what comes a little bit with the idea of fitness, is that the same formula sometimes doesn't work for everybody, right? We have different body types, executive, athletes, and things like that. That's where things can get a little odd. Sometimes a person has a problem on their ankle. Now you tell them to jump a 30-inch box. That doesn't work this way. So it was a lot of trial and error. That was when people start to look at jiu-jitsu more into a business idea to like, okay, how do we make this happen? What do we need to do? For me, it's pretty easy in a way, because for me, it's having a good product, meaning good people that can teach, and a procedure that works. I think the rest is about this, about the community, about we can do this together. And we've been in business for about 20 years now, so we first were called Ribeiro Jiu-Jitsu, which was my brother's and my name. And then we rebranded to Six Blades, okay? So Six Blades, it's our pillars from our organization, because I always love reading where Jiu-Jitsu came from. So open a parenthesis, Jiu-Jitsu came from... Jiu-Jitsu for me, and now is my particular opinion about it, Jiu-Jitsu for me is just a concept, right? The gentle way, which let's forget about the transcriptional things, Jitsu, Do, Jiu. So it's a concept, right? They say, start with the monks and all that because they didn't believe in violence. Great. But for me, it's just a way to think about life, right? How can I like face my obstacles with the most efficient way? For me, that's what it is. How can I save a problem without having to, go out of my comfort zone? How can I be in this uncomfortable position and find a solution? Okay, that's where Jiu-Jitsu starts, right? It's try to downgrade a violent level to put the level that I want to play with. So if someone argues with me, I let them go down a little bit. If I'm fighting someone that's too crazy, I hold them down and make them go into my speed. So for me, that's how it started. But Jiu-Jitsu, back in Japan, when there was a lot of like civil war and all that happened, China came to the game. So everything was Jitsu, right? Like something Jitsu. So Jitsu just means method, right? That was when one of the emperors stopped the civil war in Japan against the families, right? So then what happened now, you have a shitload of drunk samurais that has nothing to do in life. Now there's no war, their skills are being like, what am I gonna do? So there was still a lot of those training, and they became like the archery, the swordsmanship and all that. But then one guy called Jigoro Kano, he said, well, there's one thing within all of this that's underdeveloped, which is the nagewaza, which is the takedown part, right? So then he created Judo. Within the process of creating Judo, there were still the rebels. They'll be like, yeah, but what about the ground game? What about newaza, which is the ground game? So there was a lot of this balance between like, no, we want to do something new and cool. Jiu-Jitsu is too dangerous. They kept saying like, it was too dangerous, right? Which the newaza part, or Jiu-Jitsu. That's when Jigoro Kano sent a lot of his black belts around the world to develop the Kano, he called Kano Jiu-Jitsu, right? Which in the end it just became Judo. So got to Brazil, and that's when the whole story gets all like, oh, I am doing this, I am doing that. I think in the end, if you all doing it, that's all that matters, right? For me, when you guys raise your hands, oh, everybody grapples. For me, it's amazing, to just look at Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk just fucking around and say they're gonna fight each other. It's cool. Whatever it takes. In the end, is whatever it takes, right? You walk into a school, hopefully they find good schools. So that's when the Grace family came to the idea. So, well, for me, that's my interpretation. I can just lay my back on the ground, make you tired, and let's see what happens. I think that's what the only thing that diverge is the differentiation between jiu-jitsu and everything else. Wrestling, top takedown. Judo, top takedown. Football, collision. Now, like, my back's on the ground and I can actually win. That was very, again, it just creates a lot of antagonism in your thought process because how can I win with my back on the ground? And I think that's where everything developed. That's when jiu-jitsu in Brazil, again, was the same thing. So when the Grace family started, that's when they started with luta livre, kind of mix it because they used the newspaper. Oh, jiu-jitsu is better. We had like Helio Gracie challenging Frazier. Was Frazier the boxer? Yeah, that was this whole idea, but we're here today, and we're in this amazing martial art that, in my opinion, is being corrupt by the idea of entertainment. I was talking to one of the guys, like, I think there's a limit, in my opinion, between promoting, between being funny and being an idiot. All right? It's like winning, I want to win, it's just funny, but we got kids, we all see how the world's going crazy today. We got kids, we got people that are not ready for this, people using the stream media to promote things that we don't agree with. And I think that's what really the dark side of it, right? And I guess at this point I just have to accept it because if I have to fight for it, now I'm losing time in feeding that versus building this. And I think that's what we do. And I think that's what kind of COVID taught us, that sometimes we can only care about 6 feet around us. And that's where, Vitor Hugo, Felipe, Arashi, and all my students came to the game because those are the people that I have to build, but not to be a champion, because there's so many great people in this world that the only thing they have are golden medals. And that, I don't know what that's about. People using the media, oh, I'm a samurai. Like, do you even know what that means? Do you think being a samurai is just work hard and sweat and be cool? No, it's to serve. It's to believe in a purpose that will take you to influence people in a better way. And I can sit down today and be confident that what we're doing with Vitor and those guys is building this generation. I have a daughter. You guys have kids. You know what I mean? And I think winning is amazing. I think doing things is amazing, but I think doing things with intention and purpose, I think is even better. And you guys have such a big responsibility to take the world into health ways. The world, in my opinion, is sick. Sick of the brain, sick of the body. And I think, exercising, proper exercise is definitely a tool that we can use to change people's lives. It's when I go to my events and I teach, and I look around, there's older, younger men, women, bigger people, smaller people, just really trying to be happy within that. And I feel very blessed to be able to kind of take the spoils of that a little bit, but just in a different level. Being a teacher, being a leader, and I can only get guys like Vitor and Felipe to try to do the same. Because otherwise, what it is to be? What am I literally living here? I look around, I have a shitload of medals, but what does that matter? Matter nothing. If the only person gained with that's me, that's just where I believe being a samurai comes from, which then falls into the idea of the 6 blades, because all the samurais, no matter how dirty they fought, they had honor. They want to decapitate each other, but they run to the Bushido. It doesn't matter who you are, okay? We're gonna fight, we're gonna do a fair fight. So me and my brother, we're missing that in jiu-jitsu, It's just let's do it, bam. No respect for the uniform, which there's zero respect nowadays. You know what I mean? They put shit on their gis and they cheat their gis. Like, oh my God, I'm not going to give this grip. I'm like, okay. Small gis, small jiu-jitsus. That's all I always think about it, right? There's all these little cheaty ways to like, think about that. So I said, I think we need to think about something. So Saul and I were talking about our relationship, right? All right, we're a family. So that's right there. It's our first one. So one of the blades is the family. The one that we choose, the one we're born in. Then when we're born, sometimes we just got to handle it. The one we choose is this. This is my family. My students are my family. I die for them. Sometimes I fly 40 hours, get to Austin, here I am. Some days I'm a little grumpy, but it's very counter business for some people to say, but I tell them right away. I say, guys, some days I'll be super funny, some days I'll be an asshole. It doesn't matter. It's like when your boss comes in and tells you to do what you don't want to do. Because again, it's martial arts. It's still got to be tough, but also with some, level of kindness, which then brings to our second one, which is a respect. Respect's not just, I don't want them to respect me or respect each other just because I'm a black belt. I'm a champion, respect me. So what? You think you're an asshole, So I think respect will always be this two-way road, right? Like when I tell my daughter, do it because I'm your father. What is that? I heard that a lot from my dad. I was like, but why that? Like, why should I do this, right? So I think it's important, and my brother also was in a very odd position because he was a champion, older brother, and my teacher. So I had to really get a lot of shit from that guy. And I really appreciate that he gave me a lot of shit, So, and then we're talking about, and then of course, honor, right? Honor your name. Fuck, the name my dad gave to me, stand by it, and then your word, right? So you say you're gonna do something, you do it. You defend what you represent. And I think for me, that's honor. And then we have loyalty, right? So for me, loyalty, again, I'm loyal to you guys as long as my principles match your principles. And that's what I tell my students. Like, hey, you don't have to be loyal to me because, I'm a champion or whatnot. Do we agree that we both share something that's deep inbred in our hearts in the way we are in life? Because I think that's where loyalty comes from. For dividing the same idea, principles, character, do we agree, and even agree to disagree? And I think that was, especially my brother, like one time I did an interview, and he got pissed off at me. I'm like, why did you say that? I'm like, that's the truth. If I wasn't your brother, we probably wouldn't even be friends because you're an asshole. Like, until you get to know him, you're like, this guy, man, he comes out strong. Like, what about his brother? Like, what the fuck, the guy barely talks. So, but we share a lot of the same principles, and that's where our loyalty comes around. And then another one is the attitude, You're going to come around, yeah, okay, let's go out. What is that, man? You got to bring it, like watching you guys just cheering my boy, that's the attitude you want to see, right? Like how you see life, and your attitude is almost like the representation of what you believe, like you create a habit to have the positive attitude towards everything. I think Jiu-Jitsu taught me a lot of that, to see the good in things. And I think we can kind of do that because we can also be violent, Like they say, oh, it's easy. That people say, oh, it's easy for you to see the good in everything because you're you. I said, no, because I trained to be who I am. I went there, we trained hard, we put the tears, we put the work. Yeah, we're violent, and then we choose to be cool. And I think we all in the same boat on that, And I think the bottom line of everything is our last blade, is the discipline. Without discipline, we're nothing. What about dedication? You got to be disciplined to have dedication. What about determination? Same thing. So in my opinion, discipline is just your ability to do everything you're supposed to do even when no one's watching, Your ability to do what's right and truthful every single day of the life, regardless what you feel. Because greatness has no feelings. You just got to do the work. And like we say in power athletes, to move the dirt, you know? So this is what we represented. Like I said, it was called Ribeiro Jiu-Jitsu, and then once you rebranded, it just made sense to call it Six Blades, you know? And we're blessed enough to, right now we are in about 17 countries. You know, we all continents. And of course, there's bigger schools. But for me, it's not about just create something big. It's about create something that has longevity. You know, I want to be able to raise my students' grandkids, if that comes to that. You know, it's not about, could I just create something cool and just sell that and don't give a fuck? I could. I'll be a lot of money to spend in Vegas last week. But what did they really do? Did they really help anybody? Did I really create something that I can give them and they can use that, develop that, and do themselves? You know, because I think that's you guys as educators, because I believe you guys are not coaches. You guys are educators. I'm a sensei, a jiu-jitsu sensei, but I'm also an educator. Because I'm not just teaching them a move. I'm teaching them why, how, why this has happened. Some champions are great, but they teach a move. But what's in their background? And that idea that I had about being an educator, that's what really intrigued me about power athletes, right? So I have a black belt. His name is Scott Oates. And then he told me, hey, I have this guy. I had no clue. I just knew that John was, you know, a football player. My brother knows more football than me. He loves like Ray Lewis and all that shit. He would have been a good running back. So, and then we were talking about, and I was like, wow, you know, it's like, man, it's about being good athletes. I was like, okay, I like what you think. When, you know, just open another parenthesis, I train with a lot of great guys, you know, kettlebell. I love kettlebells, yoga, movement. I have always been curious about all that. And I always felt that the fitness part, let me call it this way, of martial arts was prepare my body to the workload ahead of me. You know, I was here and I posted you guys doing stuff. And a lot of people, the number one thing, is this workout good for jiu-jitsu? You know, I was like, well, first of all, it's good for jiu-jitsu. It's jiu-jitsu. You know, but what it is to be an athlete, all right? What it is to go through the process to just create this vessel that is able to withstand any type of pressure. Not just physical pressure, emotional pressure, you know, your conscience, be able to think fast, you know, and I believe that John did talk about the cases, you know, Victor Hugo. Victor Hugo was the most interesting guy. He can do things on the mat like, what the hell is he doing? And then you tell him to do, you know, a little like landmine like that. I was like, what's going on, bro? You know what I mean? Like, step one in front of the other. He had no clue how to do it. And that was a challenge. I think I gave John a big challenge because I told him, say, hey, I'm retired. I just want to be healthy. I just want to know things. But there's one guy that I need you to take care of him. And whatever we're doing, he was a little skeptical about it. And then he came in. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? You know? And it just appreciate how all this came about, because now he's the one that wakes up early to come in here and move dirt. You know, and they challenge each other. And you just see how they play with each other. It's just so funny, like these two big, massive dudes that look like, well, they are two kids. I can say that. But they're genuinely curious and willing to do the work to see where they can go. You know, in 6 months, like I said, people don't know. They think Victor Hugo is big and all that. Like I said, he had like, you know, posture issues, you know, muscle, whatever. I'll tell you something. If I would have brought that guy to a coach that would say, oh, this is good for jiu-jitsu, I'll be like, shut the fuck up. Let's get out of here. You know? And Power Athlete never said, this is good for jiu-jitsu. He said, I'm going to make Vitor Hugo healthy, strong. I'm going to put him in a baseline, and then we're going to play different, you know, of course, fast tissue muscles and things like that, right? And then that's on you guys. And I was like, all right, I guess I can trust it. And I was very blessed and never said it out loud. John, thank you so much. You know, he's ended up being our big brother. You know, Vitor is a lone child. Is lone child? Single child? Lone child. You know, and I think that's important for him to feel that other side of the game, you know. And football, fuck, when I watch football, I was like, I wish I'd be that athletic back in the day. You know what I mean? Maybe I would have got a couple more world titles, but it is what it is, right? They're just gold medals. So this is like I said, this is a world that we're getting in, that there's a lot of like, I get it when John puts this thing, no gods, no masters, because everyone knows everything now, right? Oh, I have those gurus, and oh my God, people do yoga one day, and now they're like spiritual, enchanted. It's the same thing with this industry, you know. People do a couple trainings, and maybe they get a talent guy, like to win. Now their systems they want to work, right? So we need to pay very big attention on that. You know, the champions that can teach jiu-jitsu. You know, unfortunately, we had some stuff happening in the jiu-jitsu world that it's very sad that they're not using jiu-jitsu for the good thing about it. They used to control people, harassing people, you know, just misusing the idea. And sometimes I watch parents with kids. I was like, can't you just let your kid be a kid? You know, why are we changing this, right? Why put these kids to this stress so early? Like, oh, my belt, like the parents and you know, all this clusterfuck that it doesn't help anybody. You know, and this is not martial art. You know, and I was very happy when I saw the Williams, the Serena Williams, like Doc King Richard. He was very good about it. They're kids. Let them be kids. And I would never like sacrifice my daughter's youth over something that I believe is good for her. You know, she trains jiu-jitsu, she loves jiu-jitsu, she's an artist. But one thing I tell her, you need to walk on this earth, know if every man touches you, know how to defend yourself. That's the only thing I told her that she needs to do. And thank God she can, you know. We had you know, also something happened, you know, with Jamie. You know, she got attacked by a dog. She got to use her jiu-jitsu. And I was terrified. John sent him the picture. And I think the first thing that she said to John, yeah, but the dog never passed my guard. You know, and we're talking about a girl who's been training jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks, right? And she was in this state of balance and equilibrium with her emotions. Like, I could not even imagine what went through John and the boss. I would be fucking cry probably and just try to rip the dog's head out. But just by the fact she's like, yeah, never passed my guard. You know, that's confidence, man. That's like teaches you a lot. You know, she didn't care. She made it like, well, didn't do it, you know? So I think this is our responsibility, you know, as educators in martial arts or, you know, in fitness or strength and conditioning, that we need to teach people how to be better human beings to the tools that we have. You know, and I think we're building something very special. I think we gonna attract the ones that want to be with this, and the cloud chasers are gonna go away because they don't survive. Cloud chasers don't survive around me. Like sometimes when I'm around these places and I see people, oh, you Xande Ribeiro, oh yeah, and I'm like, so what, bro? Let's get a beer. Let's go do something. It just goes away. You know, and I think that's what we're really looking forward, like Six Blades with the power athlete mentality, you know, is to how can we create cool, beautiful, educated savages, and just blessed to be here, speaking about all of this, sharing a little bit of the story. I can talk for like 3 hours if I have to, but then you guys will be bored by then. I'm a big storyteller. Like I said, I've been when jiu-jitsu was nothing, when we couldn't go out, otherwise we could have a life-threatening situation, into 30,000 people watching grappling. This is something phenomenal. We're even talking about this whole idea of the no-gi now. This money being thrown around. Again, what is this teaching us? You throw a little bit of money and that's who you are? No, it's not. Okay, it's way beyond that. And I think we need to, really stand up to what we believe is right. And I think you guys being here today says that a lot, that you guys are here willing to learn. All right. Again, we do have an example. I like to use John because he competed, in my opinion, which is the highest level of athleticism, which is NFL football. And the guy walks around in a white belt. Do you think I'm going to promote him if he doesn't deserve? Hell no. He's going to stick with that white belt and be humble until he's in the position that I believe he can be. Can he beat up a lot of blue belts? Hell yeah. I can line up 300 blue belts and I'll get my big white belt and I'll kick their asses. But is that what it's all about? No. It's about, in branding the education, the skill, and be able to pass it on. Telling that guy to stop and wait was impossible. I remember he was passing the guard one day and I can see his feet moving like that. I'm like, you can stable your feet, because I know that like maybe you're about like going to a collision, like, oh man, I wanna just like bam, collide with that guy, and I know how that feels. Like 20 years of doing the same thing, and I think wired this, to like tell him to, hey, calma, you know what I mean? Yeah, but I'm lifting all of this, calma, and it's just beautiful. And then on the other hand, turn Victor Hugo in that, right? We had a tournament this weekend. Unfortunately, Victor ended up, taking second. We're talking about this idea because his case is a very unique case, because he was already great, but his physical attributes weren't there, right? So I think now in his physicality, he's confident. But now we need to find a way to trick his emotions to kick in. To like, fuck this, Like, now taking that minimal effort, max efficient into like, I gotta do what it takes to get the job done. Because that's fighting. And that's how it is. That's the name of the game. Right? So he's prepared to collide. He's prepared to go a long run. But what about that? Because that is the key. People always tell in my life, like, Xande, I never saw you tired in a fight. I'm like, I never showed you I was tired. I never showed you I was tired. Because for me, is that mental battle. Like I tell my guys, it pisses me off when I'm training, and I'm 42 years old. I'm doing the same training on the room as them. And as soon as the ring goes, I'm standing up and my belt's tight, and I'm like this. And everybody's like, I'm like, what is this? And I like to show them a scene. I was blessed enough to be the last man to beat Roger Gracie. I think Roger is the greatest that ever walked. He's like 6'3" at the time, 100 kilos. I was 90 kilos. I think we were very evenly matched technically, but he was way bigger than me, and there's nothing I could do about that. Well, he did. I fucking beat my teeth. I said, you're not beating me, motherfucker, And that's what happened. So there was a moment in the fight that I knew I was going to win because I trained that. Like, I don't care how... I'm not going to criticize CrossFit, but I hate this thing like laying down on the ground. Okay, there's sometimes you may have to do it, right? Don't get me wrong. But if you're a gladiator, man, you just chop this guy's head. Okay, let me rest. Now, no, there's a guy here killing you. So it's to create that mentality. And I create that by habits. I don't care how tired I am. I'm tying my belt. I'm dying. I'm anxious. I'm like, I'm not going to show you. So there's this one time that Roger and I went out of bounds, and I walk around, and I'm like, tie my belt, and I stand at him. He's on his knees, like, tie his belt, and go like this. And I was like, I got this guy. And that made me feel really good. And that's when the emotional kick in, or the second win, or whatever you call it, or like the goosebumps, And I was like, hey, motherfucker, I'm going to do this today. It's my time. And added to the crowd talking shit too. If you guys got a chance to see that, I kind of like shush the crowd and all that. So it was a very special moment. So bottom line, what are we training here to be? What do we want to accomplish? Look good? You guys look great. What else? What else is in there? Throwing an arm lock, have medals, they all go away. But I think what's gonna stay is when, the guy comes to you and say, hey man, I feel very confident because I can lift my grandkids, I went to that fight and I did the gas. I think this is our purpose with this. And, looking forward to stick with you guys for another 20 years at least, hopefully, we got to grapple a little bit tomorrow, right? Who here never trained jiu-jitsu? All right. That's cool. All right, tomorrow will be a fun day. Really appreciate you guys. Take the time to listen to some storytelling and also to put the gi on tomorrow. Is everyone brought a gi? John, is tomorrow gi, no gi?
Yes, I told everybody.
Tomorrow is luta libre?
What's that?
Tomorrow is luta libre?
No, I told them to bring a gi.
Okay, all right.
I should dress them in PJs.
See, PJs.
You didn't tell the guy.
Ah?
I need some PJs. Yeah.
See, I'm talking about respect, and look what I'm hearing here. Come on, guys.
It's funny, whenever we go to doing it the whole day, I was like, we're supposed to got PJs.
Yeah. All right, PJs, I can get it. It's fun. It's fun to talk about it. There's, like I said, there's the fun little things, and I think there's the unnecessary things, like let's get our pajamas. And again, I came from, we had nothing. Now, I think we have even a little too much, and like I said, I appreciate where he came today. I appreciate the world of jiu-jitsu being out there. Of course, extend the invitation for you guys that train jiu-jitsu. Austin is always open for you guys. Hopefully we can do more of this, more of these meetings. And, can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I didn't come to work out today. I was just watching. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to speak right now, probably. But, just appreciate you guys take the time and be here today. Did anybody have any question? I guess you guys waiting for tomorrow, right? Okay. Hey, how do you do an arm lock? Okay, we got it. All right, guys. Yeah.
How has your teaching changed the most in the last 20 years?
I have this mentality that there's no such things as a black belt technique, but I think there's a technique performed at black belt level, right? So a deadlift is still a deadlift, right? You just get a little better doing a deadlift, right? Whatever, the bracing and things like this. So I think the teaching changed in a way. First, the communication. I still love communicating and find ways to communicate better, even though I can't speak English. I think the way we run the classes has developed into more straight jiu-jitsu specific. Like I don't spend like, oh guys, jumping jacks, push-ups. I know they need that, right? But I try to do things that's very combat right away, like mobility and pushing and things like this. I think what has changed is what is available there right now as far as like the new technology, meaning new techniques, but I think it's more into the competitive level because I do still believe the base work of like knowing positioning, knowing proper defense, understanding a takedown, and understand the ways of the game is still, for me, is the number one asset. I don't think that will ever change, I still do white belt techniques in black belts at the highest level, right? Go explain that. Some people got to me like, oh, Xande did a very basic choke from the guard. I'm like, you do it. Oh, no, I can't do it. Oh, it's not so basic after all, you know? And I think that's kind of relates to fitness too, because everyone wants to put this cool little thing to say their style, which happens a lot in jiu-jitsu, but I'm like, nobody can do that. You can do that. That's what I think the education part of the strength and conditioning comes in, because then you have to understand the particularities of each person, right? But I think that's what jiu-jitsu had gotten better at, like understanding how to make little adjustments to a technique. That's why I teach more conceptual jiu-jitsu than actual technique, because like I said, like I can teach the same arm lock, but all you five going to perform differently. The adjustment is different. That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, because it's endless. You know, I hit arm locks in the highest level, and people, oh my God, they're like, it's just an arm lock, because I train every single level. Let's imagine this is, you know, you're the highest level, she's the lower level. Just as an example, like if my arm locks start to suck, I start to pick those partners here, so my body goes back into believe it can apply, and then I go back to you. You know, when I moved to the US, I know my time is going. I look like those guys on.
You still have 12 minutes.
That's okay. I'm about to end it. So I had no training partners. All my training partners are like white belts. So I had to develop what can I do to make those guys better at me, to get me better. So I would like look at their body types. I'll say, okay, I think you will be good at this. You'll be good. So I start to train them specifically on that, even though I would go against my own thought of baseline, because I needed them to be good for me. And they all accept the challenge, because then they felt that my victory were their victory. So I'll get like a 6'5" guy with like long legs. I'll teach him every single triangle setup I can know. And I'll get them so good at that they would even eventually catch me. And I did that. Oh, this guy's stocky, this guy. So I developed their game within their specific abilities to make me better. And I was able to still compete at the highest level, training with white belts. Roger Gracie is a big example too, which is considered the GOAT of jiu-jitsu. He also moved to England about the same time that I moved to America, and he got to develop that. You know, I'm 42 years old, man. I still don't get smashed like, you know what I mean? Like some people are. And I think that's what goes. And again, it's having the ability to have an open mind, to learn things, okay, and to see if that would help you. Like I said, I'm a curious guy. When I see John explaining something, when I maybe see you guys explaining something, I'm learning as well. You know, I love, you know, to just learn communication, because I think this is what is ever evolving. Just to finish it up, I was in Panama doing a camp there, and I told the guy, hey, you know, I'm gonna take your class. And the guy was like shit-faced, like, oh, I'm so nervous. So anyway, he started teaching, and he was teaching this technique that I would give like a 55-word name for that technique. And he's like, what do you think about it? I'm like, do you really want to know? It's like, we should have just taught us an arm lock. Oh, but an arm lock's too simple. I'm like, too simple for who? Let me see how you explain something that's simple, so then I can learn how to pass that on in your language. You know, and I think that's what's important for us to understand. You know, some people try to impress you. And I think that's what's fucked up in jiu-jitsu, because I see a lot of people in jiu-jitsu like, oh, he's a physical beast and he's tired at 3 minutes. For me, it makes no sense. I would be very nervous sometimes. I'll be watching my opponents working out so hard. I'm like, oh my God, I'm weaker. I'll be so scared, but then they'll be crumbling in a minute. You know what I mean? So it kind of relates as well with the idea of the fitness industry nowadays. Oh, this is good for this is good for that, this is good for that. But they're not worried about educating the baseline that would allow them to speak for themselves in a future manner. You know what I mean? Like, what happens when they don't have the coaches? They still have to work hard and work right. You know, how do we develop that? So for me, I don't teach students. I teach teachers all the time. And that's why I need to keep my mind open and evolving every single day of my life. So I'm not going to stuck, you know.